Hi, my name is Rowan Pattison. I'm a guitarist from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here in Bangkok for the second time at iGuitar. And we're going to talk about playing jazz on a Telecaster and some things that I've discovered along my musical journey playing jazz and improvised music. I think I first heard jazz when I heard, there was an album called All This Time by Sting from The Police. And there's a song on that called Dienda, which is a tune by Kenny Kirkland, which is Sting's piano player. And it's got this incredible harmony that I just, at the time, I could not understand. I didn't know what it was. Everything else I could understand, I could kind of work it out on guitar, all the pop songs that I was listening to and all the AC/DC and stuff like that. But when I heard this, I was like blown away. I couldn't figure out what was going on. There was all these chords happening, and from then on, I think I started to explore it a little bit more. And then I found a Pat Metheny book, Orchestrion. I'd never heard Pat Metheny, but I opened this book and I saw all these notes, and I didn't understand what was going on. There was just so many notes, so I thought I have to learn that. So I started learning all these lines, and I thought this is the most amazing thing that I've ever heard. And then when I got to university, I just started studying jazz standards, and then from then on, I spent my time learning jazz standards. I studied at the University of Tasmania, so UTAS. Yeah, it's quite a small university in Hobart. Yeah, so Australia, and then there's an island down the bottom called Tasmania. Yeah, which is like the Tasmanian devil. I don't know if you know from Looney Tunes.
I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah. So my first guitar was actually my dad's Hofner Vienna, which is a nylon string guitar, but it's sort of not like a normal classical guitar. I think it was from the 60s or something. It's quite old, very beautiful guitar. I still love that guitar. That was the first guitar I learnt on, and I was playing that for quite a few years, and then I got a ESP LTD, kind of metal, their entry level big red spiky thing, because I used to love AC/DC and Iron Maiden and a lot of emo rock it was like, that was my thing before I ever discovered jazz or anything like that.
Emo era for
Yeah.
emotion to jazz. Is it possible?
I don't know. Well, I'm 30, so I grew up as in that era of where, bands like Parkway Drive, I Killed the Prom Queen, all those heavy emo bands, yeah. I think I just loved guitar. I didn't necessarily love particular genres of music. I just found everything just really fascinating to play.
How well do you think a Telecaster work for jazz?
I think that it doesn't necessarily make a huge difference what guitar you use. I think the most important thing is that you feel comfortable. The Telecaster, I think, it just feels very comfortable. The weight and the solidness of the body, and it sits quite nicely. Stratocaster is a bit bulky sometimes, and it's a bit more technical. This is very simple. And I think the biggest thing to get a jazz sound is also just the way you play and the strings that you use. Because I don't think there's a huge difference between, say, something like this and, say, a 335. I think you can get a very similar sound. Oh yeah, they're very different guitars. This is actually, the reason why I got this, because I have another SAITO, it's a pink S-style guitar. And the neck is amazing. Like, I love the neck and I feel very comfortable. The SAITO Beyond is an amazing instrument. The neck is very flat, a little bit wider as well. You can play a lot more technical stuff on it. So I find it really good for very technical jazz playing, like metal type stuff, any of that kind of stuff,
Is this a hollow body?
It's a hollow body, yeah, but it has a center block down the middle. So it's a hollow body, it has a nitro finish, and it has a spruce top. So this top is a spruce, which is probably what you'd find on like an arch top, I guess. So it's pretty rare, but that guitar now I use a lot at home for recording. So this is I guess this is a Heritage T-style, but I don't believe these have been released yet. This was kind of me requesting them to make this for me. They took about 3 months, I think, to make this. And then I got it, and I had a luthier from Australia called Gary Rizzolo, who's amazing. He changed this so that I could put a P90 in. It actually originally had a T-style pickup, and then it's been aged nicely to match that. And yeah, so it's kind of been, it's a bit of a project guitar at the moment, but I'm trying to make something that will work really well for jazz and the kind of stuff that I play now.
How does nitrocellulosis affect tone?
Yeah, I don't know if it affects the tone too much. I can't tell. I know some people will think that it makes it sustain longer or ring out better, but I think the most important thing is it feels a bit more organic and real. You can see this is like nicely aging. It feels like a real guitar underneath your fingers. Sometimes poly finishes feel a little bit plasticky.
The white color will be the yellow.
Yeah, yeah, yep, hopefully. Yeah, there's actually a lot of jazz guitarists that use a Telecaster. I think probably the earliest was Ed Bickett, who played for Paul Desmond, I believe. He's very, very long time ago, yeah. He played a Telecaster, and he has a really nice, beautiful, warm sound. I think he had a humbucker in the neck. Some other players would be Ted Green, beautiful fingerstyle stuff on a Telecaster. Julian Lage, who's very modern. Yeah, I think he's even younger than me. He's amazing, and he uses a Telecaster and it sounds really cool. And obviously Mike Stern, yeah, he's got a Yamaha Telecaster. I guess it's a Telecaster. I think the jazz guitarist who inspired me the most would be Jesse Van Roller, who is a Dutch guitarist. I don't think I play anything like him. He plays a lot of notes and he plays very aggressively, but it's really beautiful. Very different style, very different thing. He plays jazz standards and amazing. I love Mike Stern, and I love Julian Lage. Julian Lage is probably one of my favorite modern guitarists, for sure. And he uses a Telecaster. The first jazz song that I learned, I don't know if you'd call it a standard, I guess it's a standard, would be Spain by Chick Corea. But the thing that it taught me the most is that it taught me to really use what I knew already and then build upon that, rather than trying to... There was a few other jazz songs that I was trying to learn at the time, but I didn't really understand that harmony yet. Spain, you can start off with a B minor pentatonic and you can play over it and sound pretty good. But then there's some little moments where you might want to explore a few different notes, and then you can build upon that, get a lot better, rather than trying to learn how to play different modes and arpeggios and stuff that I couldn't comprehend at the time. So Spain is based on, it's in B minor, right? And you've got a G major 7 chord, which is diatonic. And you have this chord here. Okay, so that's all sort of part of that scale, except this chord, you can kind of hear that note. So I think I started to realize, like, oh, I can play like a pop song by using the normal stuff that I use, but I can add a note in. Do you know what I mean? So I started just by adding that one note, right? Because I could hear when that chord came in, and I would always add that note in. And it sounds really cool, right? It sounds like you know what you're doing. And then after a while, I started to find little different things that would sound, you know, there's, I would start playing the arpeggio, right? All right, so, or from the start, so I kind of started to add those in just little bits at a time, and it's easier for me to learn the songs that way because I didn't have to think about all of this theory that was really confusing. That's it.
So, jazz is difficult. What do you think?
That jazz is difficult. Well, I think all music is difficult. I think that Like I practice just as much for a jazz gig as I do for a pop artist or something like that. So I think that all music is different, but jazz is more difficult maybe to sound good when you're starting out because, you know, you can get through a pop song by playing, you know, just like very simple chords. If you get lost in a jazz song, that you're gone. You know? So I think that it takes a lot longer to be able to play maybe your first gig. But once you start getting used to it, I don't think it's any more difficult. I think it's just learning different material. But probably the hardest thing about jazz is that the chords change. So you might have a song like Moment's Notice, for example. All right, so already in the first 2 bars, you've changed key twice. So you kind of have to know, you know, you have to be able to jump on that straight away, which is really hard if you haven't done it before. Whereas if you're playing a pop song, you don't have to think about the chords. You can, you know, you can just play that scale and it works over everything. So it's harder to start with, yeah.
Jazz improvisation.
Open what? Challenges?
Yeah, challenges.
Oh, okay. I think we're always going to have lots and lots of challenges. One of the things that I do nowadays, actually, which I never used to really do, but if I have a gig, actually, I play for a couple of modern jazz groups. David Dower, who's got some really crazy harmony and difficult time signatures. Another one is Darren Ferrugia Project, who's got some songs which are really hard to improvise over. So what I actually do is I'll sit down and I will write a solo, learn the solo, tweak it, write it, and then maybe write another one, write another one, write another one. So hopefully by the time I get on the gig, I can play one of those solos or bits and pieces of that. So it's not like I'm truly improvising. I already know what I'm doing. So I would suggest if you're having if you've got some challenges with a jazz song that you're trying to learn, instead of trying to improvise over it, write out a solo for yourself. Make it really simple, but work it out in advance and then play it just like you were learning a solo from, I don't know, a pop song that you want.
Have you blended blues or rock into your jazz playing?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. So it depends on the gig. I don't do a lot of jazz gigs. So when I say jazz, I guess I mean traditional swing gigs. I don't do a lot of that anymore. What I often do is I do tend to play gigs that are a bit more fusion based. For example, a lot of the modern artists that I work for, I do lots of different stuff. Like I'll play a lot of pop influenced kind of stuff. I'll play rock, like heaps of, you know, bending and kind of stuff. I like using delay, different textures. It depends whoever I'm working for. Like if I'm playing for someone who's relaxed and they like me doing that kind of stuff, then I'll do all this kind of, because it's not so much about a genre, it's more about, is it going to sound good in the musical context? But even if you're playing a jazz song, you can play bluesy licks, you know, and it kind of cool, you know, sounds cool. Even over like a major 7. You see, did some bending and stuff like that, which is maybe not traditionally jazz. Yeah.
As a jazz guitarist, how do you approach playing?
Yeah, so it depends who's in the group. If there's a piano player, I tend to play not that much. And it also depends on the genre. If it's traditional jazz and there's a piano player, I might do a bit of that kind of stuff. That kind of works well. If there's a piano player and it's more modern, sometimes I do play a lot of modern jazz. I haven't got my volume pedal, but that kind of swelly stuff, you know, that kind of thing doesn't get in the way of a piano player. Because if you try and play like over a piano player, then you're going to get clashes of rhythms, which can sometimes be cool, but usually it's not that cool. So I try to play simply, or do a lot of volume swells. If I'm playing without a piano player, I'll just play like a piano player. So I'll do like a lot of, I use my fingers a lot. That kind of thing. I'll usually try to avoid the bottom string. So if there's a double bass player or something, I play a lot of quartal chords like this, which are stacked fourth. So for example, if you've got a C minor, I might often play that kind of thing, which is a C, it's like a C minor 11. And you can do these cool clusters, right? So that's all C minor. I might add a bit of tension. And you can maybe even put lines in between them. And that's all over that bass note. But obviously there's a bass player playing that note. So you can, yeah, you can kind of get crazy with it.
How do you choose amps and efforts to achieve your jazz tone?
It depends. I do a lot of different things. So sometimes I will play more of a fusion group that's got lots of effects. I've got a really nice big pedal board at home, which unfortunately I can't usually fly with or anything like that. But and then I've also got a deluxe reverb. Depends on what guitar I'm using. If I've got an arch top or something like that, I tend to go directly clean into the amp. But if I'm playing slightly more modern or even just playing with this or something, I tend to use a tube screamer, like really low downs, no distortion on it, or maybe the tiniest little bit. But what that does is it gets rid of the low end, like the woofiness, and it also gets rid of the high end. So you get more of a, probably more like this sound. It's kind of a thicker sound, and it allows the guitar to push forward in the mix. Sometimes if you don't have that, your guitar can sound a bit weak.
What's your vision for the future of jazz?
Oh, that's a big question. I think with AI, who knows what's going to happen, so it's hard to tell. But I think that people will start to want to see more organic music. They will want to go out and see real music that's not created by an AI. And if you think about that, jazz is kind of the peak of that, because you can't recreate that on any level. So it will always be raw and organic, and it's improvised, so you never know what you're going to get. So I think that there's actually a pretty good future for it, or at least for improvised music in general. Cool, so that's it. Thank you, big thanks to iGuitar for having me here. I really appreciate it, and I'm keen to come back next year, I hope. If you want to follow me, please do. I'm on Instagram as Rowan Pattison Guitar. Send me a message. I do online lessons occasionally, so we can set something like that. I will be touring China in March, and then I'll also be touring most of Asia, I think, shortly after that. So yeah, keep in touch, please.